Hey, fellow patriots, I'm Bree.
And I'm Blaze. Some call me Pa. It has been said that we have 4 boxes to keep ourselves free. These are the soap box, the ballot box, the jury box, and the ammo box.
And we are the 4th box. We are here to arm you with enough information, resources, and skills to take back your freedom, increase your self-sufficiency, and inspire you to join in the fight against tyranny.
Thomas Jefferson said, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." Thank you for joining us and for joining in this fight.
Welcome back to the 4th box. Okay, everybody, welcome back to another week at the 4th Box podcast. Things have not really made any improvements since last week, as we suspected. So we are back once again with our good pal Denny here this week. How's it going, Denny? How's it going, Pops? How's everybody feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yep. As you mentioned, we got lots to talk about. We want to welcome all of our listeners. Thanks for joining for the ride tonight. As always, we are coming to you from our virtual Buckman Tavern, the place that patriots gather. And the 4th Box studio has been recording now for 111 sessions. So we're cheersing that, as well as for a toast tonight. I am toasting Tom Massey and Ro Khanna as they continue to push for the revealing of what is turning out to be an absolute atrocity of conditions that we'll get into here as we go along. But I am toasting those two for continuing the push to expose for the public some of the rot. Incidentally, they are still redacting things. And this is after there was an act put in place. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. We'll just get to the toast now. I was also planning on toasting Natasha Owens. Natasha Owens, she's a country singer, and she has written a song. It's worth listening. It's called "Thank God You're Not the Boss." And this is directed specifically at Bruce Springsteen, who was long time known as the boss, who somewhere over the last 20 years has turned into a committed Marxist. And I am toasting Natasha Owens tonight as well for the release of that song. And if you get an opportunity, you ought to check it out. It's pretty good.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. Cheers.
Cheers. Now for the quote tonight. The spread of evil is the symptom of a vacuum. Whenever evil wins, it is only by default, by the moral failure of those who evade the fact that there can be no compromise on basic principles. And that was a quote by Ayn Rand. You might recall the 5,000-Year Leap and other books of Ayn Rand. I thought that was really appropriate to what we're going to be talking about here tonight. If evil persists, it's only because of us. We have to be the energy behind this evil. And I think, Bree, as we get ready, and Denny, to discuss some things tonight, talking about anything but this Satan's work with the Epstein syndicate, it seems merely trivial. This is a pivotal moment in our history as a country and the history of the world. If we allow the elites to go unchallenged with this kind of behavior now becoming known, we have nobody to blame but ourselves. And this is our World War II moment. Talk about the greatest generation. We have to be the generation that takes and gets our arms around the filth, the atrocities that have been going on by many of the world elites, the world's wealthiest, world leaders, entertainment people. This has to come out. And as Massey said last Monday, we have to be perp walking. And I would go a bit further and say we need to be Nuremberging the people that have been involved with these atrocities.
Yeah, I don't think it's too far to say that there needs to be public executions, to be honest. I think that many people feel that way around the world because these people that are involved are not just Republican politicians or Democrat politicians. It is global elites that are involved in this. And I think what it comes to kind of teach us the more that we see through these files is that the Epstein circle is very large, but it's not the only circle like this. This circle is used for blackmail purposes predominantly, but these are not the only people that exist like this. I mean, we just saw all this type of stuff happen with Diddy, which, there's a big circle surrounding that. It probably overlaps a little, but it's not necessarily the same circle. There are a lot of circles like this.
That's a great point.
It encapsulates so many of the world leaders, the celebrities, the ultra wealthy, all of these people. Maybe you haven't seen their name in the Epstein file list yet. It doesn't mean they're not involved in another circle.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you think, Dan?
I think that she makes a very good point, and it's much larger than I mean, they've been talking about this for how long now, and you really felt like, yeah, I guess we kept it closer to home, but that's a real good point.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can do. So as far as, trying to come up with any sort of solution for this problem, I think we have to start close to home, but it's a bigger problem than that. And we have to really get to the root here and recognize it for what it is. We talked about it last week. You just talked about it a few moments ago. Pops, this is satanic. It truly is. It's nothing short of pure evil. I just, the more I see, the more I don't really know what to say about it. But there is something I kind of wanted to follow up on from last week that I had in mind to speak about, and I'd like to just make sure I get to it tonight. I kind of had mentioned that, they always sprinkle in these little carrots just to kind of keep us along and keep us somewhat in the know. But they never give us the full story, And we've seen that throughout history with predictive programming for all sorts of things, not just this, but this is definitely one that, we talked a little bit about QAnon last week and 4chan and how they were using that as a tool to sort of sprinkle in truths without giving it to us outright. And my thought process now that these files are being released to the extent that they are is how much of what we're seeing is just more of that. I mean, yeah, we have a very small percentage of people like those you mentioned just in the beginning of the episode who are pushing for the truth to come out. But why now? This has been off of the radar. Everyone was saying doesn't exist. Oh, they're not even real. Oh, it's a conspiracy. Trump, Pam Bondi, all these people sitting in office. Our whole DOJ said, yeah, don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden, they give them to us. Not all of them, but they do give them to us. Why now? And why the parts that they did? Is it just furthering their agenda? It seems like that could be hard to believe. I mean, it's throwing a lot of people under the bus, but who's really behind the documents that were released? That's my fear. Is there a motive behind this? Because if this file dump teaches us anything, it's that every time we speculated a terrible and evil motive behind a theory, it came out to be reality. There came out to be an evil player behind it. So who's behind this? And is that something that we should be thinking about as we're going through these files?
Denny, care to weigh in?
Well, I think again that if these are the people that they are exposing or throwing under the bus, then we're the ones that they're hiding. To your point exactly. And who's in charge of this black magic marketing? Got all these things. I'm sure they're getting their orders from somewhere. Okay, you can release this name, but you can't release this one, which
Correct.
is a bunch of bullshit.
So
It's a
that
crime.
it is. Congress passed an act called the Transparency Act, Epstein Transparency Act, where all of this stuff was supposed to be unredacted. And now the congressmen have a very limited time that they're able to go in and review these documents, and the majority of the names are still redacted. This is the outrage. This is the government entity and the deep state protecting the globalist cabal and the globalist elites. This is what it is, and we are watching it in real time in front of ourselves. So I can tell you, Bree, you mentioned what can we do? This may seem trivial, but the first step is all of us need to be contacting our representatives to stand with Massey and Ro Khanna. And we know that there's very limited success, but if there is an outcry, everybody needs to get on the congressional switchboard. And I'm going to give you the number. If you don't want to email, you get on the congressional switchboard and you ask for your representative's office, the congressional switchboard office, 202 224 3121. They will direct your call to any congressional office. We need to be burning down the phone lines for people to demand. Now look at, there's a good chance that some of the people are on the inside of this group. These are, who knows where the stonewalling's coming in effect. I wrote to Trump today, again, as I have many times since he's been in office, and said nothing he has done compares to this issue. It needs to come out. Alex Jones suggested last week that maybe Trump is an FBI informant, and that's why he's playing this backhand. Whatever it is, it all needs to come out. If he's implicated, if his friends are implicated, it matters not. Then the next step we can do, and it's the only thing I think we can do, is we rely on the sheriffs for any of these people that are identified that step foot out of Washington, D.C. They are arrested immediately, and they are taken to the home jurisdiction to be prosecuted. As Massey said last week, these people need to be perp walked. They need to be put in front of the American public. The world public needs to see these people be prosecuted. One other point, and I think Denny probably has some comments to make to that. One other point, I just saw this minutes ago. Glenn Beck, I don't know if any of you saw it. Glenn Beck produced a 2-minute clip this afternoon that shows the Epstein death certificate was written the day before Epstein was suicided, or the Epstein ended up being dead. There was also suggestions last week, once again, that brought up the question as to whether or not Epstein was removed and a body double was in place and Epstein is still alive. This is so big. All of us, just like Massey said, have to be involved. We have to do something, or we are complicit in allowing this to go. We cannot allow ourselves to be distracted by the Super Bowl, by the Grammys, by the rest of the crap that they throw up, because who knows how many of these very people are participating. We have to wade through the bullshit. We have to do something, every single one of us, as we discussed last week. It should be pitchforks and torches time.
Oh, 100%. Denny, what do you have to add before I jump back in here?
Well, I don't know if there's a whole lot that I can add to that, other than I just can't get my head around the depth of this whole operation. And as Bree alluded to early, with the many circles, it becoming more and more evident. I did see that it wasn't Glenn Beck's clip, but another reference to Epstein's death was called the day before it actually happened. And going back a little bit to our Congress, and they're only allowed to see so many of these documents and what's redacted. And so what does that tell you? there's foreign operatives running our government. I mean,
That's
it's
correct.
so obvious, and I
Yep.
agree. I agree with your comment that everyone should be contacting their representatives. But what flashed in my mind when you said that, Blaze, was the old 80-20 rule. You know,
Hmm.
80% of it's going to be done by 20% of the people. And is that going to be enough?
Yeah.
Hell, I don't know. It doesn't hurt. I agree. I agree with you. Absolutely. But I don't know. They're
Yep.
just, I don't know what it takes to get people involved. I don't.
Well, I think that my fear now is that there is nothing. There's nothing that can get people involved. If not this, then what? I mean, this is as big of a story as there ever was in human history. This is so much bigger than anything that we as a species have experienced. I mean, the scale of this thing, and the global players involved. And I think that that's what people who maybe claim to not care, maybe that's the issue, is that they just think, as if it's not bad enough, they just think there's sexual predators out there. And it's just the same as any other, sexual predator, in your own neighborhood. It's not. It's not just that. It's bad enough if it were just that. But this has so many other implications. And because it is truly being used as a tool for blackmail, it it is so much tied in to everyone in our government and governments around the world. And the way that I see it is that there is no reason for us not to be treating this the same way they would treat us. It is not an innocent until proven guilty thing. It is they are guilty until they prove themselves to be innocent. If you want to prove yourself to be innocent, should be easy. Release all the files unredacted. Every single person who has not done that is guilty. Point blank, period. It doesn't go beyond that. But I also wanted to comment, Dad, on some of the stuff that you said too about Epstein and his death certificate. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that he is not dead, including one that was posted on 4chan by somebody who was allegedly working in the prison. They had posted way back when it first happened, hey, he got switched out. Like,
Yeah.
I watched it happen. And then the thing with that is, okay, we just discussed how 4chan is owned and operated by these very same players. So if that's true and everything else that they had just sprinkled in was true, then why would that not be the case here? And then, there's accounts of him, being his Xbox account being active, his Gmail account being active, all this stuff. And then you have pictures coming out from wherever that was, New Zealand, South Africa, I don't know. There were pictures just couple weeks ago that people are claiming is Epstein, and it's not AI. Everybody's run it through a million AI detector software things, and it's not that. So whether or not that's true is almost, it's important, but it's almost moot at this point, because there are so many things that we should be tackling here that we just simply are not. And I can't make sense of it.
Yeah, and that is, as Denny alluded to, and we've all kicked around here the little bit of time that we've already been on. The big thing, and the only way this gets fixed, is if we stand in mass. So they have us so pacified with the bread and circuses, so misguided. Like the quote on the by Edward Snowden, that says, "How do you convince somebody of the truth when they cannot accept that they've been living a lie?" And I think that is just it. Look at the fact that we have two congressmen, that are pushing out of 435, mind you, we have two that are pushing for this evidence to come out. What does that tell you about the rest? What does that tell you about the Supreme Court? What does that tell you about Trump? It tells you that somehow, some way, they're all connected implicated, afraid, one thing or another, they are allowing or having this forced upon us. And the only way it gets fixed, it is not Washington, D.C. Although I will continue to encourage you to call. And if your congressman gives you some lame ass excuse, redirected answer, you absolutely know that person has got to go. As we said a couple episodes ago, every single one of them have to go. Every one. We cannot do any worse. And when the next group gets in there, recall every Supreme Court justice, get rid of them. All the federal judges sitting on the benches that have been fudging these cases and legislating from the bench and steering things away from the truth and justice needs to go. That's the only thing there is until there's blood in the streets.
Yeah. Denny, you want to jump in there?
Again, I mean, we're well aware of it, and it makes me think also. This was, I don't know how many weeks ago. I was talking to a friend, and they made the comment, "Well, you'll probably be glad to hear that I don't watch the news anymore. I don't know what's going on, you know." Then this person was a Fox News person, faithfully every night, every day, and I thought, well, that's kind of good, but what are you doing? Where are you going to get your information? And they responded with, "I don't want to hear any of it. I'm done." So how many people are taking that attitude? That doesn't strengthen. Again, the 80-20. I just can't. Until it comes down to, and what come to my mind also was, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie The Hunger Games.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they put so much stuff out there. I never really realized that until lately, but I remember watching those movies and the one scene where they're taking the explosives to the city. They're going to blow up the power plant or whatever. Got three guys carrying this big box of explosive. They get killed, they get shot. Two or three more step up and grab the box and keep going. Until you have that kind of commitment, nothing's going to happen.
That's correct. And what's disappointing is you can't even find, as you just described, you can't even find many people to talk about this subject. I think the younger people, again, more so than Denny, our generation, I think the younger people are talking about it, recognizing that there is no fixing this problem through elections unless you throw them all out. All of them out. We cannot allow these people who are covering. You might have heard that Kash Patel is implicated because he lied to Congress when it was brought up that Les Wexner was involved as a co-conspirator, and it is now proven to be so. And so he had to lie outright to Congress. So these people that we thought were going in there because we're going to get some new blood, outsiders, we're going to be able to peel these covers back. And now they are all, and I wonder if that's why Bongino bailed out. I wonder if that is why he had enough.
But is that any better? I was going to bring this up and it kind of slipped my mind, and I'm glad you said it because I would have lost track of it. But like, he's just as much implicated. He literally came out and said, the things that I've seen have shook me to my core. And then he went back to a podcast where he had a ton of viewers and didn't say shit. Yeah. You didn't say shit. None of them did. They all went in there, became exposed to the truth, and didn't say shit. You are liable.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't. There's no level of like forgiveness or justification for any of these people. Not one of them. Even those that I was sure I liked. Mm-hmm. And you know, I've got a couple of kind of theories that I had been hearing about that I kind of wanted to touch on, and one of them does relate to this. But before I jump into that, you know, I wanted to bring up the fact that you were kind of talking about that generational divide with who's talking about it and who isn't. And just further elaborating on the point I just made, most people of your generation, like Denny, you just called attention to, either have checked out entirely, so they're not even seeing this anywhere. As groundbreaking as this information is, they're not seeing it. Or two, they are still just watching the mainstream media. And again, mainstream media, complicit. I've seen a couple clips. I've seen a couple clips of people talking about this. I saw Massey on CNN talking about some of the stuff you just shared with Kash Patel. I've seen some, 10-minute sections. This should be all day coverage right now.
Yes.
And they're not talking about it. So how are people in your generation going to even get this information at all? The only people who are talking about it are people like us, very, small time podcasters. Even the big time podcasters at this point, I feel like, are skirting around it. Which
a lot of them are. Yeah, I've noticed that too. You've gone quiet. They don't want to. And I think a lot of the don't mean to jump in on top of you.
No, please, I want you to.
I think the generation gap thing is you have these people that think, well, that can never happen here in the United States. It'll never happen here. Yeah, it can happen over there or wherever. This is all going on, and I don't understand how they can't look for other sources of information. They just don't have. Is it too? They're too busy. Too busy doing what? This. You're talking your kids, your grandkids, future generations, your country. Your dads that were in wars and your brothers and what did they fight for? Not very damn much, because all these other people, I mean, our whole government, judicial system, that at this point, and they're not hiding it, as you have alluded to many times on this podcast, they're above the law.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I always try to look at, both sides. These people, if they're not blackmailed, if they don't have video evidence or whatever, then what are they being threatened with?
Yeah.
It's and I don't know that. I mean, I have kids, I have grandkids. If someone come to me and said, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to eliminate your family. Well, then what do you do in that? I don't know what I would do.
I think that's a great point, and it brings an idea to my mind that, if the majority of people in this country hear about this at some level, I mean, you can dig into it until you make yourself sick reading about the things that have gone on or alleged to have gone on and the people that are involved. You can make yourself literally sick. But say, somewhere around half the country is somewhat exposed to it and knows that there's things that have gone on at the highest levels of government, entertainment, finance, etc. And we do nothing. Basically, what we are saying is that there's a group of people that are above any law. American law, international law, these people are above any law. They drink children's blood, they kill and eat people, and that's who we're going to allow to rule over us. That's what we're doing. By doing nothing, we are acknowledging that this stuff has gone on, and we are going to allow these very people to rule us.
Mm-hmm.
It is completely unacceptable. Again, to me, it's pitchforks and torches time, and we should not sit down. We should not shut up until these people are perp walked and Nuremberg in front of us all. There has to be a deterrent. And if we just sit down, roll over, turn on the garbage that is meant to keep us distracted, feuding over whether the halftime show or the alternate halftime show. This is the left. This is what you're looking at. While the people that have done these atrocities to children and other people are getting away with it. Our Congress are being told that they can't look at the documents? Like Denny said a few minutes ago, who is telling we, the American people? Remember, Congress is the representatives of us. We are being told we are not allowed to see this. That should not be stood for, not for a second.
I guess it's just there again. How informed are the 80%, and they don't have the gumption to even. I mean, I never thought that I would be digging into this stuff. I'm not a techie. You know, I'm dangerous when I get on a keyboard, hit the wrong buttons, and go the wrong places. But I can't believe that they don't have the interest even to try and find, to look at both sides.
Yes. Yes, when a story comes out that describes some of this stuff, if that doesn't pique your interest to dig into it, so you're exposed, you have an understanding. If that don't do it, I don't. We're already gone.
Yeah.
People, they're not even living. They're walking around in a shell. If they don't have the fortitude to get up and say, we need to look into this, and I need to take steps to make sure that my children and my grandchildren are not living under the rule of people that are killing children and drinking their blood. This is what we need to. The rest of it's just, that's what we need to think about. You need to think about that we are subjecting ourselves to the demons. Demons we are subjecting ourselves to without a whimper. That's unacceptable.
Well, that's just it. You know, it's like these people. This podcast hasn't been going on that long, right? Not in the big picture, but 110 episodes ago, I would have been fine with it if somebody said, hey, I just don't really get into politics. This isn't politics.
No,
this is not. This has nothing, actually nothing, to do with politics. The only reason that politics is even being associated with this whole controversy is that our politicians are the ones keeping the truth from us. It's not a political situation.
No.
And the other thing is that you have people that then might say, you know, if it's not that, they might say, I'm not really a religious or spiritual person. This has nothing to do with whether you're going to go to heaven or hell later on. This is creating hell here on earth now. Is that what you're okay with?
Yeah.
And every single person who does nothing is saying yes.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. It's a great way to put that you are saying, I'm too busy. I don't care. The children are murdered, eaten. Jerky, they call it. They call it jerky. If you can sit back and tolerate that, you're already gone. You're already dead. You will stand for nothing if you can't get your ire up over this and be ready to charge the gates of hell. There is nothing that any of us have experienced in our lifetime that is bigger than this. Nothing. Nothing's gone on in the history of this country, that's including 2 world wars, that has equaled the atrocities of what this is. And these are the people calling the shots, manipulating the currencies, causing and starting the wars, and all of this stuff. So everything that's going on is under the influence of these people. And by Congress not taking any action, we're being told to sit down and shut up because we have no right to look into it. That should piss everybody off. This has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with right and wrong and standing up for what's right and for what your children and grandchildren are going to be subjected to if you sit back and do nothing.
It just, I don't know if you guys seen it and so many people are going to say, well, who was he? Did you see Putin's comment on the West has been feeding on and eating kids and filling their pockets? I mean, he's the only one that's speaking up. Our government, our own representatives, nobody's saying that. Massey, yeah, he's making some headway here. which honestly, in my opinion, it's going to fizzle out. He doesn't have enough support. He doesn't have enough backing. And is that by design? Maybe it's his
How
turn.
about that? How about that, Denny? How about the fact that of any sitting congressman, who has Trump come out in most opposition and working the hardest to make sure it doesn't get back in? Does that
Yeah,
send a message?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, but great point about Putin. Like, he is somebody who has been speaking adamantly about these things, and with no fear and no shame around it. And it does make you, question, or at least it should. It should make you question the way much of what we understand globally, how much of that is reality, how much of what we have been taught is more propaganda to hate people who are trying to bring truth and trying to bring light to what's really going on. Like
Sure.
Putin, oh, he's this evil dictator, he's destroying the eastern part of civilization and trying to turn parts of the West into the East and da 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 da. All these things about what a horrible human being he is. I'm not sure I see that now. I'm not sure that lines up.
Right.
Well, of course it don't line up. Just remember back in the latest beginning, a couple of years ago of the current Ukraine crisis, and I said all along I want to get a Russian flag and ride around with that in the back of my truck with all these nitwits that have run out and put their Ukraine flag up because that's what the television told them to do. Putin was the only guy on the international stage that was standing up for his country unabashedly. And was calling stuff out about the evil in this country back then. But our propaganda machine was able to get the masses, talk about the 80-20 rule, Denny, to get the masses that 80% shifted away. So guess what? There's no pressure. There's absolutely no pressure. Everybody's, 80% are sitting at home soaking up the drivel that comes off of that idiot box and have absolutely no idea the reality that they're surrounding them. None. And this is how this stuff is. They've gotten away with it, and it is so big and so terrible now that the 80% that we need to stand up simply aren't going to do it. They're so indoctrinated. They are not going to do it. I don't know the solution until there is. I don't know. It's overwhelming.
It absolutely is. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to say here, I don't know if you guys have seen, and it's the truth. It makes perfect sense. It's not really a theory. I've heard people say that all this time we have been being told that they had to prolong this whole process because they're trying to redact, anything that would give any information on the victims. They don't want to put any victim information out there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That is damn funny when the only names that are redacted are the people who committed the crime.
Yeah.
The victims are the predators. The victims they're worried about protecting are not anybody's kids. They're not anybody who went through actual hell on earth and somehow survived it and made it out alive. No. There are sitting government officials. There are, celebrities that we all go and fawn over every time there's an award show or a new movie.
Yep.
Those are the victims that they're worried about protecting.
Yep.
And people believe.
And only our silence is. They do. Yep. It's unbelievable. And here's the next thing. Talk about another step. If there is enough of an outcry that Massey and Ro Khanna get some support and other Congress people start gathering, and maybe there's some strength being coalesced around this thing, what's going to happen? All them battleship groups that have moved into the Strait of Hormuz and all that stuff over there are going to become active, and there's going to be a war going on. I'm surprised it hasn't taken place already, but maybe they're waiting to see if there's any blowback or if this thing is just going to wash over, which I have suspect it will. But maybe in the long shot chance, and that's why I would encourage, and I'll give that number again, everybody call your representative, call your senator, email them, send letters, do something. And maybe there's enough wind behind that sail that they get a little foothold and they can start clawing back some of this stuff. And then I expect the next wave of distraction would happen, which is going to be either a kinetic involvement in Iran, in the Middle East, or Taiwan, or something else big is going to go on to try and get the American public back rah, 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 red, white, and blue again. And all of those things, which has happened before in our past. But I think we have to do something. And as we talked about earlier in the show tonight, get on that phone, call them up. It doesn't matter what you say. You don't have to be a polished speaker. You don't have to be a polished writer. Send them an email and say, we want justice. Epstein stuff needs to be exposed, period. Do your part, stand up. We are tired of being lied to by the people that we sent to office to represent us. Get up off your ass and do something. You answer to us. Send them a note. It doesn't matter what you say. Let them know what you're thinking. Call their office, email them, all of them, because there is nothing bigger, as we've discussed, nothing bigger than this that has gone on in any of our lifetime.
Yeah.
So true. So true.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to touch on this too, a little bit different of an idea, but I've also, heard people say, now I have heard people say theories, like this is, hey, if Israel really is behind all of this, which clearly to some degree they are. I mean, they are controlling the blackmail that is going on here at this level. Are they just trying to make it known to all of these people in government just how much control they have over them, and trying to force their hand with places like Iran or anywhere that they want to take over? And maybe that's it. I don't know if I necessarily subscribe to that idea. I've also heard people suggest, is this all part of Agenda 2030? All part of, that one world order, that thing that was a theory not all that long ago? Do they just want us to take down our own government? I don't know if I feel like that's the case, because I don't think we have it in us. But if we were to try to come after our government, there would be a void to fill, certainly. There's no shortage of evil power players who would want to step into that role. And if there's ever going to be a one world government, our government has to fall first. So, is this just part of that domino effect to wipe out our government, whether it's, by our hands or by another government's hands, or however? I mean, that could be framed in a myriad of different ways, but you could certainly see how this would be the starting point to take it down from the inside, and then the void would have to be filled somehow.
Well, that's a good point. Just like the quote said that we considered earlier in the show tonight, the spread of evil is the symptom of a vacuum. I would say there's a vacuum already existing in the lack of response by the American public. The vacuum is the fact that we haven't been largely, if people stood up and screamed and hollered all over this country like the idiots that are up there doing their master's bidding in Minneapolis and other places, it would spread. It would spread. But there's nobody. There is no effort standing up. And then to go back to your other point about the Israeli influence, I think that's one of those other little circles that you talked about that are connected. How they are all working together or working in it to achieve a goal, it's really hard to say. But I think that is one of those little circles that is connected to this circle that we're talking about, which is now being called, the Epstein syndicate or whatever it is. I think there's a bunch of little circles, and the Israelis are certainly part of it. Maybe they're wholly within that group, or maybe they're just a group that's connecting it. And what their intentions of getting out of that are only one knows, because as you point out, there's blackmail, there's leverage on people all over the world because of this stuff. And are they using that to their benefit and their influence on the things that they want to achieve? I don't know. But we have talked about for a long time that there's evil among us. It sits in high places, and we know that there are forces that were working to take down the American government. There are people that are working toward a one world government, a one world order, and we know that Satan is atop of that pile. There happens to be some minions beneath them that are doing it, but basically this is the ultimate struggle. This is good versus evil. And what I think we're begging for here is for the good people to get up. Remember Edmund Burke. All is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. How prophetic is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Denny, you got anything to add there?
No, it's just it's very evident to us what's going on. Again, I can't believe that the people, I don't know what rock they're under or how deep their heads in the sand or up their whatever, but it just blows my mind. I can't believe it.
Yeah. I know it is really beyond imagination. I mean, every component of this is from what's gone on to what's been hidden to the people that are not doing anything about it now. I mean, it is beyond imagination. But I mean, look at the people that are involved in this thing. These are the same people that were pushing the vaccine. You know, they're the same people that have pushed every other weird, shady narrative. And you want to get back to the full circle rabbit hole here. I mean, when COVID started, what was really coming to light around that time? What was really like getting a lot of, I don't want to say news stories, but it was gaining quite a lot of traction in the alternative news space. The whole Pizzagate thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was right when COVID took off. I mean, anytime this stuff starts coming out, something happens. And it will. Mm-hmm. Something will happen. It's just a matter of what and when. But the other piece of that, too, is the Ukraine thing. The Ukraine-Russia thing, you know, all of a sudden this war kicks off with them. And now, you know, okay, Russia and Putin, we knew they were framed to be these bad guys, even though it didn't necessarily make a lot of sense. But for anyone who was really looking under the stones, you could see that the United States had a bunch of really sketchy biolabs in Ukraine. And then all of a sudden, COVID comes out and we start dumping a bunch of money into Ukraine right after a war kicks off. Okay, sure. Like, none of these things are by happenstance. None of them. You can actually connect way more of these dots than you think once you start putting the pieces together, and you just take the time to do it. And no matter how bad you think it is, it's worse.
Yes, it is. So I had one other note that it might sound like it's starting out unrelated, but I'm going to suggest that it ties back in, and that is that the UN officials say more than 95% of what is owed to the regular UN budget is owed by the United States. Isn't that curious? $2.19 billion by the start of February was owed. The U.S. owes another $2.4 billion for current and past peacekeeping missions and $43.6 million for UN tribunals. So how does that tie in? Again, we know that the UN is just another gadget that is under the control of the global elites and the world, the organizations that want to run the world. And here we are funding our own demise. So these very same people that are in charge of and making efforts to run the whole world, and they're in charge of these organizations, are demanding we pay for them to subjugate us. This is what it is. And I kind of gave the Trump administration a partial toast last week because they pulled out of the World Health Organization. But guess what? In this note, this story that I read about the U.S. owing these dollars, we're going to pay it. We are going to pay it. How stupid are we? You get what you tolerate, folks. You get what you tolerate. And we are living in hell because we're tolerating it.
And I seen that statistic you're talking about, Blaze, and what come to my mind was, well, that's bad enough, but what about when Trump says, well, we're going to build a new ballroom, you know, and you got millions of dollars to go into this, or billions, I don't know what the figure is, or Trump's coming down on the Fed because they the renovations that they're going to do to their building is millions of dollars. You know, that's the money thing is nothing to them. It's nothing. When you're this far in debt, does it really matter? I remember Trump talking
Right.
about you're going to be able to do your income taxes on a piece of paper size of a postcard. There's no reason to have to go
Right.
through all this. Yeah, you don't hear anything more about that. I don't think Trump has truly followed through with any of his campaign promises, any of them, to the degree
I
that they
agree.
need to be followed through.
I agree with you. 100% I do.
Not only has Trump not completed a lot of campaign promises, but now he appears to be standing in support or protecting at some level or involved himself in the most vile and evil stuff that may have gone on. And at the very least, he's protecting it. He's trying to cover for it. And he is part of obscuring what should be coming out for all of us. And at whatever level, that is completely intolerable. I don't care what other things he wants to hang his hat on. If you take part or are not digging to the bottom of this, making whatever moves are necessary for the DOJ or whoever is blocking this stuff from coming out, he needs to get in there and get it out. You cannot sit back and say it's time to move on. That is an effort to redirect. That is an effort to provide cover. It's unacceptable.
I
Well,
think
look at
he
how much he
believes everything
implicated
he says.
himself. Oh yeah, I think so too. But I mean, look at how much he implicated himself leading up to it. Like, it's a Democrat hoax. He was saying that, what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Every single time that he didn't come out and say, we're working on it, he implicated himself.
That's certainly what it's. I had some hopes when Alex Jones last week suggested that he was on the inside and he's providing all this stuff, and the FBI's got their arms around it and they're conducting the investigation to rat it all out. I was hopeful. But now, when you hear that Cash lied under oath or in a congressional inquiry about whether or not any of the people, and now it's somebody on Trump's staff, is implicated as a co-conspirator, guess what? It starts at the top. It starts at the top. And if you knew that he was involved and you knew that Cash lied, then by you not doing something immediately upon learning that information, then you are complicit in the deed.
And this is something I was going to bring up earlier. This is just my own train of thought that I've had forever, and I don't think I've brought it up on the show. I know that a lot of people look at these people. They look at Cash Patel. They look at Trump. They look at these people who were outsiders, and they go, no, there's no way. There's no way they could do this. Not with their history before going to Washington. And I would have been that person too. I think there's two ideas here. One, they just always have been that evil. Actually, there's three trains of thought. The second thing is that, we had James Corbett on not that long ago, and he told us anyone who can make it this far in politics is a sociopath. Okay, that aligns with what we've got going on too. The third option is that we know that our government, the inner workings of who is really behind the scenes of our government, mind control exists and is real. MK Ultra exists and is real. And this shit is actually really old technology. Really old. Like almost a half a century old. More. So what type of shit do we think that they have going on now? What I'm saying and suggesting is that people could get into office who are good people. It takes 2 nights, 1 night, of you being in some mind control state of mind. I mean, like, roofies even is just a regular drug that people on the street can buy. And you already don't remember anything that you did for the last 24 hours. What type of tech do you think our government has if they want to blackmail you?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that Denny brought it up earlier. why are some of these people, when there's no video or, photo evidence of what they've done, why are they still so afraid? Because in truth, if you get elected into office, it's probably very likely that the people who are pulling the strings behind the curtain they force themselves to have blackmail on you to make damn sure you only act within the lines at all times. And when you think about everything else, that would not be hard for them to do. They have the technology to make that happen. That's a guarantee.
Of course. Yep. So even though I think that the nut I get out of that is, even though, and I suspect some of the people that went in there were not tied up in that before they got there. But once they were there, somebody got leverage on them by some form of, whether it was, as you suggest, some sort of mind control thing or a drug that and all of a sudden got them pictures or got whatever information they needed to have leverage so that these people will do what they are ordered to do when they're ordered to do it. Because it has happened all the time. And funny enough, they all become millionaires. So they get greased for playing the game, and they never open their mouth. Now there's congressional hearings going on about this congressperson or that congressperson came in here and was basically broke, and now they're worth $8 million. They all have gone through that. Well, guess what? Somebody owns you for that as well. So to think that anything beyond that, when these powers that be, the power elites around the world want to create something and they want Congress to go along, they got them all by the balls. Just like George Carlin said 25 years ago, they are owned. So we got to fix it. We have to fix it at our level. You cannot count on anybody down there, not the Supreme Court, not President Trump, not the Congress. They're all been compromised.
Nobody's coming to save you.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, that's something that I've been tossing around for a long, long time. And now that the files are actually released, it becomes even more of a potential reality. And I don't hear that many people talking about it, but it is very easy to imagine that if you got into a position where you were going to be controlled and you were sure, you were adamant that you were going to stand for the people, you could absolutely easily see how somebody could, while you were unaware, while you were incoherent, even for 8 hours, 6 hours, come back to you with photos, videos of you as an adult man raping a little boy and saying, I'm going to expose this to your family, to your children, and the entire world if you don't do everything I say from this point forward. And that is what I believe has happened to many of these people. Also, not that hard to just make up a few emails to corroborate the story. But along with that, it is not justification for any of them. I am absolutely not saying that that is every single person. I fully and truly believe that many of them are just evil to their core and do these things because they are Satanists and they are worshiping Satan and they are actual demons. But I think that for the rest of them, they're probably just caught up in this big ploy to manipulate all of humanity, which is why I finally remembered what I was going to say a little bit ago. Denny's point bringing up the financial component of all of this. The whole tax revolt thing that people are discussing this year, I am all for 100%. Why would we be funding any of this shit anymore? We cannot give these people our money. We have to be done. You want to fight? Fight with your wallet, because they're paying the UN with what? Our money. They look at what they've done. Look at what they are doing. We're complicit. If we pay for it, we're going to be paying for them to do this absolutely depraved shit. And we can't. We simply cannot do that.
Couple of quick points there, and Denny will recall this. We were talking about stopping paying our taxes to shut down government because of the corruption 20 years ago. That was before any of this filthy atrocities was even a consideration. It was just because of the UN and of the other things that were being crammed down on us. We're paying for our own pen that we're living in. And we were talking about this 25 years ago. Now we got even more dramatic reason when you hear the stuff that has gone on. A couple other quick points. Madison Cawthorn, I believe, is the guy's name, was a young man. I think he was a disabled veteran, if I'm correct. I might be wrong on that. I think he was from North Carolina. He sat through Congress for a term, maybe two, and they roosted him out with the very same thing that you're talking about because he was coming out against some of the rot that he's seen. And guess what? They roosted him out and they provided pictures of him in orgies and other things, whether or not there was kids or whatever, and they blackballed that guy and they got him out of there. Now, I heard he was going to try and make another run. But anyway, that to your point that you were making, that is the kind of leverage I think that you were describing. Another off-the-wall point, completely out of the blue, but I think it's worth mentioning, was talking to our friend Fast Eddie the other day, who was the author of a book that we've shared amongst ourselves and others. He's working on a second book. He has a ghostwriter who was a former PBS broadcaster. I'm trying to get him on the show, or reporter rather. He was in Afghanistan before the conflict actually started. I talked to him briefly a couple of nights ago. Interesting point. Eddie had provided to the ghostwriter electronically a manuscript of the second book that is going to be much more detailed about involvement of our own government agencies in running drugs and this sort of thing in this country and involved with toppling governments around the world. He sent the electronic file to the ghostwriter, and when he opened it up, it disappeared, and it disappeared from Eddie's computer as well.
Gee.
Yeah.
So
wow.
what he has left now is what he's telling me. He's in hiding. I know where he's at. We won't discuss that currently, but I will at a later time. He's in hiding, and what he has left is the handwritten notes prior to this thing being put into a manuscript that was going to go to be prepared to go to publish. So anyway, talking about MK Ultra and mind control and government being involved with anything that they need to be involved with to keep people in line and keep people uneducated to what's going on. I think this is a pretty good suggestion that can go on at any level. At any level, if somebody might be getting too close to exposing the truth.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's really a great example of what could happen to any of us at any point.
Yep.
We're probably going to have to go back to snail mail here pretty soon because I don't know what choice we have. And even then, I'm sure they have some, bougie AI reader that if it's folded up inside 6 envelopes, they can still figure out what it says. And, who knows? But Denny, I think we're getting close to wrapping it up here. And you always have some good insights. I know you go down a lot of rabbit holes yourself in your own time. So is there anything else that you wanted to touch on or just kind of add to the conversation before we wrap everything up?
Yeah, I think that the shit's going to hit the fan. We talk about what has already hit, but I think it's going to get worse. And I think we need to go back and touch on be prepared in your own space with your family, your friends. It's going to come down to small communities looking after each other because I don't see any end to this until it really gets bad. And I hate to say it, and I hate to see it for my kids and grandkids and anybody's kids. It's just, I don't have a good feeling about what's coming. We'll be kind to each other and look out for each other and
be prepared. Amen.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Great words, Denny. Hey, I don't know if we did it while we were on the air. I wanted to get a call out. We do have our shirts on.
Yeah.
Bree and I, we have our shirts donated by a listener. We're very thankful for that. Just want to make sure we got that called out.
I know. Hey, let me jump in there.
Yep.
Last week we called attention to the quote on the back, but we didn't call attention to the quote on the front. It's simple but important. Hold fast. That is what all of us should be doing right now. We know what is right. We have to hold fast in that.
Amen. Yeah.
Hear, hear.
Great point.
All right, take it away with the Bible verse.
Okay, Bible verse. And man, I was looking at so many great Bible verses talking about dealing with evil in the world, and I really had a hard time, picking one. But I did, and it goes like this: Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world, and that is what we are seeing going on around us today. That came from 1 John 4:1. So hang on, folks. I'm sure by next week there's only going to be more, but please, please, please get up, get on that congressional switchboard 202-224-3121. Demand that you get in touch through that switchboard with your local congressman, your senator, and leave them a message that we expect fully. They're going to stand with Tom Massey and Rokana, and they are going to push to get all of this stuff made public. And we want people perp walked, and we want people Nuremberg.
Yep, absolutely. We can only do so much, but it's our job to do every single thing that we can. So, Denny, thank you so much for joining us again. It's always great to have you on and get to hear some of your insights. So appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yep,
I'm sure you'll be back soon. Alrighty, everybody. With that, until next week, stay vigilant.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate the support and truly love getting to share this message with anyone who wants or needs it. The best way for you to support the show is to subscribe, add a rating, and share with everyone you know. You can find us on Instagram, X, and at thefourthbox.com. We'll see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Stay vigilant.